What up, guys? Guys and gals. Hope everybody's having a happy 420. If you guys haven't yet, go grab your mystery bags. Get your 420 orders in, terpfiend.com, www.terpfi3nd.com. Homie Earl's going to jump in here in just a minute. We're going to have a little smoke sesh it up till 420. And yeah, maybe cut up some weed shit and some business and see how we do. There he is. Hope everybody's smoking good today. The worst thing ever, thing I could think about. And it has happened. It's happened to every damn one of us. What up, Earl?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Smoking good, bro. Smoking good.
Okay. Yeah, good. Same here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I was just saying, the worst thing ever is 420 and you got no weed.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody's smoking good.
Yeah.
It's a rough thing. It's happened to us all before.
Yeah, for sure. It maybe doesn't happen as much as it used to, but back in the day,
Definitely,
you could definitely end up dry.
And that's the worst thing, because somewhere on the planet Earth, everybody's just smoking, blazing hard, and you're just sitting there going, "Fuck this shit."
Yeah. Well, there was sometimes, like, since the holiday was coming up, in my hometown there was a big fair too, and so if you didn't make sure to stock up a little bit, you might go 418 or something. I don't have anything. Fuck. That was a long
It's
time
the
ago,
springtime, man. Everybody's getting out. Like, the weather's starting to turn most places. They're starting to get some warm days, and everybody's trying to spend some time out of the house, and everybody needs weed.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest things, in a previous life, I used to be more connected to the fungal society, I suppose. And I noticed a pattern that nobody eats mushrooms in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So it's like, as soon as it turns cold, nobody wants to touch mushrooms at all. It's like, it's almost strictly like a summer, spring, fall thing. And then in the wintertime, nobody would touch them. You couldn't give them away. People were just like, what am I going to do with that? Like, there's no concerts. I can't go out in the woods. I can't do anything fun. What am I going to do with that?
No, that makes sense. There's definitely a lot of nature's mushroom people. It's a great thing to use to connect with nature. So that definitely makes sense.
And it's just the cold. Since the cold does not beget doing mushrooms.
Yeah.
You guaranteed you're stuck inside. It's not like you can go to a show most times, because most bands don't tour in the wintertime. There's a small contingent. You'll still catch people on the road, but it's not the sort of stuff you really want to go eat a bunch of mushrooms to,
Yeah.
That's like festival. That's like festival outdoor stuff. Everybody loves the sun but yeah, that was definitely, it's spring too. So that's another one of those, like, everybody's like looking for weed and trying to get high. So it's the one time of the year where it sucks to not have,
Fuck yeah. It sure shit does. You been doing anything today? Been kicking it at the garden or anything?
Yeah, I got a little bit of work to do, but it's not like nothing serious.
Yeah.
Nah. See, man, the funny thing about 420 for me has always been, like, when you're really working in the industry, when you're part of the business end of it, you almost want to take the day off.
Yeah.
Like, you almost just want to let everybody else celebrate and party, because usually the weeks leading up to 420 for everybody, whether you're doing cups, whether you're doing events, whether you're just, pack trapping, whatever it is, you're trying to bust ass to get ready for 420.
Yeah.
And you spend so much time in the prep that, like, you just go, yeah, I just want everybody else to enjoy it. I just want to sit and smoke and be.
Yeah, for sure.
It all kind of sucked after they got rid of I know this sounds funny, but for years and years and years, like, they did the big 420 Cup in Denver. Excuse me. And it was, I think they said they did 100,000 people by the end of the 3 days or whatever it is. It's like 30,000 people a day through the door.
Nice.
So it was like, for a few years there, up until 2016, I think, it was a what's up, Wee Man? It was pretty much 420 was like always in Denver. The cup was always in Denver, and it was an open air weed market. Like it was pretty much pack trapping out your booth, selling, selling slabs, selling whatever until 2016 when they fully started cracking down on kind of the legal industry. They started giving a shit about the rules and regulations in Denver. And that's when they said pretty much like, you can't be selling weed at your booth, especially if you're a licensed entity. And by that point, most of the people that were doing the cups were local licensees that were people that had, dispensaries and shit like that. And they were pretty clear, like, we will take your license. We're not gonna play about it. Like if we see you at these cup events, even if you're just giving away product, we're gonna shut you down. And so the last year that they did it there, I think was 2015. It was still a lot of fun, but it was a lot of people really stressed about like whether they were going to get in trouble. A lot of the big brands that were local brands showed up and just gave away merch or did stuff like that. They couldn't actually, handle product. But for a while there, man, those cups, the cups that they were putting on there and in California, bro, it was wild because you could see all the hash makers, the top hash makers in the country, whatever they had going on. You catch your favorite growers and see what new strains they had going on, breeders. Everybody selling seeds would be able to get, and it's like that whole thing kind of dried up when High Times kind of went super corporate. Like now they're owned by another multinational company. It's not really, what it used to be. And I don't even know if the people that bought the rights to the magazine bought the rights to the cup stuff. Because by the time it was all said and done, that was kind of two different businesses,
Yeah.
The magazine was where it all started. And though it was all under at one point the umbrella of High Times, I'm not sure what stuck around and what went when they sold it off.
Yeah.
But I know they're not doing cups like they used to.
Yeah, I don't think any of the, I can honestly say I've never been to a cup or ever done anything like that because when I was first getting into it, a couple of my friends who had won some different cups said that it's just like a donation, hook up the homie type thing. I was like, so when we talked about it, they just, oh, you're supposed to send in an ounce to be judged. They send in a quarter pound or a half pound or whatever it was. They're like, yeah, those were the ones I'd always win. It's like, well, yeah, that's.
So
But
here's how that really worked, right? Because it was, to my understanding, it was never that stark or transparent. Like it was never, here's a fixed amount, you give us this and you win. What would happen was the people that were judging it and the people that still to this day that do Cannabis Cup judging, celebrity type judging, it's all the same people. So they all know each other. They know the top growers. They know the top hash makers. So what the top brands would do is reach out to some of these judges that they knew were going to be judging the cup, slip them a little bit of product on the side. Now they know what your product looks like when they're judging it. And they, so it wasn't, I don't know if it was ever like you give
that
them
cut
X
and
amount
dry.
of product and that's, and that's it. But I'll tell you a funny cup story while we're talking cup stories. So the Chalice Cup that I won in 2015, it was the first year that they did the Chalice competition, which ended up becoming a pretty reputable cup. They did it a couple years and then it kind of all went to shit. But like the couple of years they did were like top notch. Like the people that entered were the best of the best. It was a lot of fun. It was pretty much an open air market type of thing. Right. And so this was right around the time where selling a judge's kit became a thing. So what they would do is if you entered, they might tell you, look, you need to put 2 ounces up as your entry. 1 ounce they would bust down into like quarter grams, and you would pay for a judge's kit that had one each of those like quarter grams from each entry. So you technically paid for a kit that the judges would get. And a lot of times, I think that one particularly, they would do like a judges cut. Like if you bought one of those kits, you actually got to judge, and they did like a People's Choice type of cup with that, right?
Yeah.
So when we did the first year, the cat that was putting in the entry for us, we were communicating with the people at the event, and they essentially go, okay, well, this is how much you need. You need 3 ounces. And we're like, well, that's a fucking lot of rosin. Like this is like hair straighteners, bro. We're still pressing rosin with hair straighteners. And they're like, we need 3 ounces of finished product. And we're like that's like 3 or 4 grand a hash back then, or more, maybe 5 grand a hash. So we run our entry, and our entry we don't have enough. Like we just don't. Like it was one of those things where we put it all in, we ran everything we had, and we had like 2.5 ounces, right? So I'm just ballparking some of this because it's been a little while. We come up short with what they ask us for. So we get back to the cup people and we're like, hey, listen, like we're in this, but we don't. 3 ounces is kind of crazy. And they go, oh, well, we don't really need 3 ounces. We can get by with 2. We were just going to sell the extra ounce. And we were like, wait, you were going to what? And it was the first time I had somebody tell us straight, like, yeah, the other ounce is just pay to play. Like that's just to get you in the door. Like if you want to enter, you have to enter all this hash, and half of that is paying the bills to pay for all these bands that we put on and all of this and that and the other. And it was just kind of like, and it was an entry fee.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of one where you went, bro, there's a lot of people that were making a lot of bread off of doing cannabis cups and putting together events and like doing stuff like that, because it wasn't just the ticket sales and this and that and whatever you sold. There was a lot of stuff on the back end where you would see stuff and you go, oh, okay, yeah, it's just everybody's here to hustle and make a buck, and you get in where you fit in. It had a lot of that lot mentality. Like having done a lot of like jam bands and stuff like that, it had a lot of that like lot hustler feel to it of like pop your booth, sell your shit, talk your shit, But yeah, it was one of those weird things where like the cup days of like just open air drug market, set up your wares, sell out grams, sell 10 pounds that day. That ain't no more. And a lot of that was legalization. A lot of that was what we thought was going to bring, more open and easy to deal with days. What it ended up being was that's the thing that like shut down the cups and the events.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I could. And I mean I haven't gone to a cup or really an event too often, a cup ever, but they're really popular around where I'm at right now. But it's almost like too much for me. It's like a whole lot of sales and industrialization, and if that's even what you fucking call it. I know I've been enjoying the holiday, but it's like too much for me. It's like it's just like I don't have a full weekend to put at going to this cup down the road to go do whatever they're doing, But
see, now they've just transitioned into like conventions, right? So it's just that's the modern day cup has just become like the cannabis something convention, and it's just essentially the same shit. People popping up booths, but not smoking, not selling weed, and it's just a bunch of hand grabbing and glad-handed, shaking hands and telling people like, "Oh, come and support my booth," but you can't do any of the fun stuff like sell product or And it's like the crazy thing about that was, those booths were often a couple grand just for the booth. Like if you wanted a booth and you wanted to enter, you were talking about 5 grand plus, and then ounces of hash on top of that. Like you were in it 10 grand by the time you said, okay, we're going to do a cup, we're going to do a booth, we're going to enter. So the best thing to do was to use it as kind of your entry to the market. So what you would do is you would drop all your advertising budget into some banners and some stuff to put up at your booth. You do a couple really solid entries and you hope you win. And if you win, you get ready to market on the back of it. You go back to wherever you're from. Now we got that product going. Now we got everything ready. And that was the reason it was beautiful for small companies because if you went for 10 grand, you could win a cup probably, and you could get up in front of people, and you'd have tons of exposure at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And that name, there's tons of different ways to make money off that. With the clone, for instance, like there's a lot of big money in clones, especially with these facilities out there that are paying like the big money. Where like me and you would never pay it, but like some of these
Yeah.
facilities are
Oh yeah,
talking
yeah.
$10,000-$20,000 for these cup winning clones, especially if they're somewhat exclusive kind of shit. So
Yep.
it's
That's
wild.
crazy too. That's crazy. And I understand it on the production end because obviously when you're running a production facility, in the grand scheme of things, 10 grand is not the end of the world. If you're going to make, 100 grand plus off of it, it's a small investment. But the reality is, man, that's crazy.
Agreed.
That's crazy for just
Yeah.
and it's always stuff that at this point to me just seems tired,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, happy 420, guys. We're just rambling. I'm gonna be honest. We're just rambling. 420 rambles. I'm gonna do a dab here at 420 in a minute. And yeah, we're just talking smack, man. If you guys got any
Yeah.
questions or topics or stuff to rant about, please kick it in. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope everybody's staying safe today, staying baked. And I want to remind everybody of all the people that either died or sacrificed their freedom to get us to where we are today in the cannabis movement. I think it's absolutely worth mentioning on days like today. And I think that we absolutely have to remember that. While some of us are celebrating, there's still people that are struggling. There's still people that are stuck in systems that aren't legal and that aren't, open. There's people out there smoking pissy fucking Delta 8 right now and still thinking they're getting high off of it. So it's a struggle. But to be honest with you, man, today's the day to remember shit like that.
Yep. Yep.
I think we all know somebody that spent time in prison for it, that's, given up some modicum of their freedoms for it. And yeah, man, torch is up.
Wasn't it wasn't that long ago, man. And it's crazy how fast things change, You can talk to some kids. I have a younger brother. He's some of the generation, some of the stuff that they do and go through. I have to be like, hey, dude, calm down a little bit. Like I get it. It seems that way, but one wrong move with this and that, and things are gonna be way different. And
Yeah.
but then you go to other parts, even like down the road in some instances, to other states especially, and it's just not that way. So it's
Well, bro,
just
even in one state, like, aren't you guys from the Chicago area?
yeah. I'm
Even
by Detroit right now, but I'm from Illinois, so it's
Yeah,
like
so I mean, like that whole area in general, it's legal there, but I don't know what the hell that means to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like when you go to Denver and you hop off the airplane and there's a dispensary within like 4 minutes, and then there's a dispensary every 4 minutes from there, and you can buy every concentrate or extract that you've ever thought of or edible that you've ever thought of, like, and it's all variety.
yeah,
And the beautiful thing about Denver that I've noticed that a lot of places don't have yet is that there's a connoisseur market there. So there's enough people producing and enough people there that consume that the cream floats to the top. So if you're somebody who is really into quality and product and like making sure that everything is top notch, and you're into terps, or whether you're into flavors or you're into certain types of hash, like you can find that somewhere because there's a market for it. I think it eventually develops everywhere. I think every legal state eventually gets that, but I think it's a couple years after legalization when they finally get to a point where, like, okay, there's enough places producing garbage. Somebody's got to produce dank.
yeah. It's it's really similar to alcohol when you talk about like high school and college kids. You get those few years where it's like Everclear 151
Right.
shots, and
The
then you
board.
mature a little bit more into like the thicker, more expensive types of beers, the mixed drinks. Maybe you're not just going for the booze, and
Right.
I think the weed follows suit. You don't just go
I agree.
for the THC after a while. You notice the differences.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it happens everywhere. Like I said, like eventually what happens is you get enough people together. Happy 420, everybody. That was our 420 dab. We just smoked through 420. If you haven't yet, go grab a mystery bag. Go hit the website. Get you 30% off. Terpfiend.com, TERPFI3ND.com. All the mystery bags are up now. Go snag them. But yeah, man, it's one of those funny things that, like, for a holiday that developed out of what was probably just a couple of kids at high school, it became such a corporate thing. Like 420 in general has now become this like overly corporate thing that, like, it's almost not cool anymore
Yeah.
to really celebrate. Like, I hate to say that because, like, there used to be this thing when I was in high school that, like, it was still kind of subversive. It was still kind of like the number 420. Your teachers didn't know about it yet. And it was this kind of underground thing that we all kind of snickered about, right?
Yeah.
And then once again, like the internet, the more people that found out about it, the worse it became. And then it just became another branding and marketing thing for companies. So it's like, it's not necessarily about representing the culture or the plant, celebrating what's great about cannabis. It's essentially just, it's another day to market. It's another day to push it. And I'm just as guilty about it. Like, you got to have a plug in the middle of your show. But the reality is it's become that to people who aren't really associated with the industry and that aren't really associated with the community. And it becomes one of those things where it's like, I don't know, bro. When you see certain people that have taken on some of these things that at one point were like subversive weed things, you kind of go, man, it's definitely jumped the shark to some degree, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. I like 420 specifically because you can find shops with really good deals. Like, I'll wait. I'll go get that cocoa, and I'll go get stock up on, like, the little pH downs and ups and what the things that I
Yep.
need.
Yep.
420 has great deals, and seeds have great deals too. Like you were just
Yeah.
saying.
Yep.
That's
It is the day to
the
spend.
deals.
And it's another, speaking of market trends. So, I've been selling seeds for a little while now. And the same thing happens that happened with mushrooms happens with seeds. After July 10th, after 7/10, nobody buys seeds until Christmas. So it's like the hardest time of any year of selling seeds is from 7/10 until Christmas. And it's like that last few months of the year, almost everybody is spending money on Christmas, spending money on other stuff, and it's like most everybody, the biggest booms you see in the seed buying year, 420 essentially, early in the year, spring. That's
Yeah.
because outdoor people that are planting outdoor want stuff to run. People that are just collecting love to grab a deal here and there, which is always nice, man. That's always been awesome about 420 is that if you're buying seeds and seeds in the seed market, man, 420 is the day to get deals.
Yeah.
Now you can't even post 420. You can't even post the number 420 on Instagram. I can't without getting flagged.
Wow. I wonder if mine did. I think I posted something 420, but I didn't.
I had to quit using the number just 420. Like if I put the time 420, it doesn't seem to get trouble. But if I just post 420, and it's one of those things that they've just trained their algorithm to understand is that's a banned term. So if you just go check hashtags and look at hashtag 420, I bet you can't. It'll probably tell you that's one of the banned hashtags. And there's a bunch of them like that. Like when they started cracking down on the weed stuff so hard, and you can't, pictures of fucking Mylars get you flagged. That was the one on my first account that got me flagged the most, was just pictures of Mylars, because they don't know if that's weed or seeds. And they just flag it all. They just flag it all. They don't really care. They're just like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah, yeah. They'll flag all kinds I've noticed certain words get me flagged the worst. So like trading out
Anything
A's with the at sign and little things like
sales.
that.
Anything if they can tell that
Yeah,
you're
no
selling
sale.
something, the word purchase, the word sale, the word, any of the words that you would
All that
raffle,
stuff.
any of that
Buy
sort
one,
of
get
stuff.
one.
Yeah, any of that sort of stuff that you would use to sell is like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. Now, what's funny is, and somebody, how this all happened is kind of funny, but like, I've started using Twitter more often lately, and that place is a damn free for all. Like, it doesn't matter what you post there. Like, yeah, sell your shit. Now, I will say, I don't know if I'm seeing sales off of it like I do off Instagram, generally speaking, yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a lawless wasteland over there. You can say whatever you want, and it's all the stuff that, like, when we first started, well, for me at least, when I first started my Instagram page back around 2016, you could say whatever you wanted. You could put the price of seeds, you could put the packs, you could put whatever you wanted, and there was no stress. There was no stress whatsoever. And then there was a point in like 2020 where they essentially clearly tuned the algorithm to say no more. And it was like anything that even implied they can't differentiate seed sales from weed sales from crack sales, so they just lump it all in the same, throw it all into the same algorithm and say ban it all. If people do it, ban it, we're done with it. And it sucks, man. It sucks. Instagram has been a tough place because I've said before, I'm curious how much actual ephemera, parts of the weed industry were thrown in the trash when people lost Instagram pages.
Yeah, for sure.
Like whole chunks of the culture. I lost alone thousands of pictures. Thousands of pictures, if not tens of thousands of pictures. Uh, Followers, the whole thing. When it all goes in the trash, it's a whole chunk of your life as a breeder, as a grower. A lot of people for years and years would use their Instagram page to document their grows, to document their, maybe like a diary of their grow progress and stuff like that. And it's like so much of that stuff got thrown in the trash, completely shut down from Instagram, and it sucks because it was a good chunk of the weed culture. People who are just growers, people who are just trying to meet with other people. That's what these platforms are for. Like the whole essence of it was supposed to be to meet people. And at this point, it's kind of sad if we can't do better that something that's legal, is legal in your state, then you should be able to deal with it online and not necessarily have to deal with repercussions because of it, because it's illegal in somebody else's state,
No, for sure, for sure. I think it's that. I think it's a little bit too that we do have a lot of stuff going on that is gray area or, like you said, illegal, and so they're saying, hey, they're not trying to put money into differentiating. It's just like you said, like cut it off, like completely,
Yep.
Which I don't agree with it, but it's a side that I can kind of see. It's like who knows how many angry texts or not texts, but emails or messages, or it's hard as shit to get hold of Instagram. I don't know if you've ever tried to like get an. I know you tried to get an account back, but
It doesn't
hold of
exist.
somebody, dude.
Yeah. I've dealt with a few of the big online companies like Uber, PayPal. There's a few that are notoriously tough, but that you can eventually talk to somebody. If you're annoying enough and you're clever enough to know how to work their phone systems, and you can almost always get to somebody you can talk to, but not with Instagram. Instagram, and this might have changed recently because they did a bunch of things in the merger with Meta where they now have a back end that, like, if you're a producer of some sort or, a public personality page, I guess, that there's a way that you can get in touch with people. But it's like, yeah, it's the biggest headache on the planet. I had 30,000 followers when they took my first page. 6 years worth of content that I had produced, like every day, getting up and hustling. And yeah, man, they just threw it all in the trash. And
Yeah.
it's like all the pictures, all that work, everything that we had documented, everything that we had put up, everything, I guess to me, it's a bad thing because I should have backed up. I should have had backups of all that stuff. And one thing that we've done since then, and that I tell a lot of pages to do, is diversify. So don't put all your eggs in Instagram, because it's not a good place to put any of your content. Like, spread it out, find 3 or 4 social media pages, bomb them all at the same time, and that way you always have a backup. You know, you always have your stuff backed up. You always have something that if it hits the fan, you can start back over with. But man, it's been tough. It's been a tough navigator. It's funny because when you see the biggest pages on Instagram, like the biggest seed names, they pretty much post with immunity. They post whatever they want. They post shit that you or I would get cut for. They would flag you and take your page. So there's got to be a process, whether that's paying for ad space. Like, that's the thing that we don't ever want to talk about when we have these discussions about how shitty Instagram is to us. It's that they want you to pay. They want your money and they want your ad dollars. And when you pay them X amount in ad dollars, then they're usually willing to look past shit like that because they're making money off of you. But when you're just a small creator and you're trying to, in a grassroots way, bootstrap your business and start a new business, it's high near impossible, because they don't want that. They want their cut, and it's, you know, you're not getting this connection for free. They want to be able to make some money off of it, and they can't really tell you between a pack trapper, so they just lump us all together and throw it all in the trash if you're not paying for, you know, ad dollars.
Yeah, for sure. Discord's a really good one there. It's weird. I know a lot of people have a hard time navigating that, or at least that's what I've been told more than anything.
They've been shutting people's pages down. They've been shutting people's pages down too.
I haven't heard that. That's crazy.
I've heard it a few times lately, man. I've heard a couple different people. And once again, now I don't know, you know, like, we all usually do the worst until we're told otherwise. So it's like, the things that they always get pissed about is like prices where it's obvious you're selling something openly. There's ways to do that, but it's not on other people's platforms anymore. Like, it's just not really. You know, like, you got to have your own website, and then you can do whatever you want. You know, you can do whatever's legal where you live, and you can set it up and run your own thing. But yeah, when we're using these social media pages to advertise, they don't like that. They don't like that. They don't like that. Mike Zuckerberg wants his cut. Like, he wants his cut. He wants it even and clean. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. And it's funny because you and I have all seen it, right? We've all seen it. A whole page, and it's nothing but Xanaxes and Adderalls and all that shit. And they're open with it. 10,000 followers open with it. And it's like, fentanyl is killing people left and right, and I guarantee you can get that shit on this app at any point in time. No trouble. No, I've been on the internet long enough to know. No trouble. High school kids figure it out. And it's one of those things where it's like, bro, how is it that shit that's legitimately killing people and fucking up the world, like, it is fucking up the world right now with fentanyl, and you can buy that shit on this platform all day long. But if you sell seeds, boy, that shit is the devil. That shit is the devil.
Yeah. I mean,
they can make sense.
Yeah, dude. I didn't realize that. What's it called? X now, Twitter. I didn't realize. I've never. I was on Twitter for a second, like on it. You know, checked it out, looked through it a little bit. Never got into it very much, and then I know Elon bought it and went to X. That's the place you think that has the most freedom?
Oh, it's lawless. When I say lawless, like, selling seeds is the least of what's happening there now. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because, like, I've used all of the social media apps. I've been a computer guy. I would dare to say longer than most people have been on the internet. Like, I had a computer in my house for the first time with a modem in like 1987. And so I've been on the internet since it was all bulletin boards and it was all text and there was no pictures and it was all like hardcore data. It was all text, right? And I've seen all of these ads develop through the years, and they all have kind of a personality of their own. There's a structuring system to a lot of them, but they're all still essentially just bulletin boards. It's the same folders, threads. Just looks different. Some of them, the folders are pictures, the threads are in the comments. On other platforms, it's more text based. On other platforms, you can share really easily. So on Twitter X, the big difference there is that you can literally, all you have to do is click reshare and you can share somebody else's picture. I don't even know how to do that on Instagram. I know for a long time you had to have a third party app just to be able to share somebody else's picture.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that connectivity that gives you a little bit different perspective on connecting with people, because when people can instantly share your stuff, it's a lot easier to get stuff to go around. Whereas Facebook and Instagram have both always been kind of closed off. You're only really accessible to the people you know, and they limit your exposure to people you don't know. They've done that really hard with the seed and weed people. As soon as you post weed, they don't share your content outside of your friend group at all. Like, almost not at all. If you share any weed content and they flag it, not even if they flag it, if they just notice that you post weed pictures, they will limit the content that you can produce or how far it can go. So the thing that I kind of found out with my recent Instagram is that this is so funny, because a lot of this is just studying people. Like, pictures of weed don't get that much attention, even if they're the most beautiful pictures of weed you've ever seen. But if you post a mid-grade meme, that shit will get 700 likes, and that will get shared with people outside your friend group. So that's why if you look at my page, it's almost 50-50. I hate having to do this, but this is the truth of it. Half of it is essentially seeds and weed stuff, and the other half is essentially memes.
Yeah.
And it's because the memes get shared, the memes get passed around, even if it's, even if it's I say a mid-grade meme, because I see a lot of people having meme pages. Their meme game is weak, and it's like they still got mad followers. And it's like, for me, I never really wanted to ever have to make memes to get a point across, but sometimes it's easier, but it's very reductive. So it's like, you can't make a long form point in a meme. You have to reduce it to its funniest, most controversial essence, and then you got to let the comments deal with the rest of it, right? And so my approach to it's always been, I'm not really into negative shit. Like, I don't want to attack people. I don't want to shit on anybody. I don't want to have to, like, make a name selling myself by being shitty to other people, right? Just picking on people and saying mean shit to people and trolling. That's not a good look. So I try to use 20 years in the industry and make memes about shit that, like, is so cliche, it's funny. Like, we've seen it so many times that it's relatable. So it's like, whether it's the cow mag shit and joking about that, which has now become like institutionalized in the world of weed jokes, it's like almost to Blue Dream level of cultural cliche when it comes to weed stuff, right? But it's like some of the things that I think of sometimes, I go, oh, well, that's funny to me, but I realize other people don't understand the industry part of the weed business. So there's a lot of that shit that's really funny, and how it all happens, and the ins and outs of some of these dispensaries and the goings on between them, the politicking. Like, it's all kind of comical. It's kind of, and to the point where, like, people that are in the business and that have been around it a little bit, it becomes just a joke. You tell the same jokes to your homies about everybody getting ripped off, checks not showing up, like little things like that. And then you realize that the general public doesn't ever see that. Most people don't know where their weed's produced. Most people have never been in a commercial grow. Most people have never seen a weed plant growing with their own two eyes. That's a big thing for a lot of people, is that first time you see a plant, and you've only known it as the shit that shows up in a bag that's dusty and smells like piss and, is brown and nasty looking. And then you finally see it as a plant, and you're like, oh, wow. It changed my life. It changed my life.
Yeah.
and it happens to other people too. A lot of people have that. It's the same thing when you walk into your first dispensary. It's the same thing when you first walk in and you get to go to a counter and buy weed for the first time. It's a moment for a lot of people. And it's one of those moments that is, when it happens to you, it's shocking. It's like, okay, this is a whole different thing. It's a business. This isn't just some shit that shows up in a little bag now.
Yeah.
There's packaging, and there's fancy labels, and and it looks just like anything else you buy at Target or at Walmart. It's product. It's product.
Yeah.
And most people don't see that side. Most people don't see the pre-rolls coming off the floor, getting dusted up and with the dustpan off the floor. Dust that shit off your leg, bro. You got a half joint on your leg. It's biomass. When you first time you hear the word biomass, ugh, ugh, ugh. That's one of those that just goes through me in a bad way. Biomass. Yeah, it's just a mess of shit you got to deal with because now it's just weed powder, whatever the fuck it is. And it's like when you see these machines I'm doing reels and I'm sitting there watching reels and massive rolling machine. Holy shit, this is cool. Industrialized weed. That's cool, right? And then the dude brings out this bucket of weed dust. And by the time it's weed dust, there could be anything in that. There could be rat pellets. There could be dog poop. You don't know. There could be dust off the floor and hair. You don't know. It's dust. It's weed dirt. And it's like you see them feeding this into pre-roll machines, and those pre-rolls are going to get sold. Doesn't matter what you put in that motherfucker. Somebody's going to buy it. And that's the scary thing is they know that. These companies know you're going to buy it.
There is one thing that won't be in there. That's moisture.
Moisture.
But would you use a certain app or anything?
What's that?
To make do you use a certain app or anything to make the memes? I've seen that.
Oh no,
different apps
I just
to make
raw
that
dog them off
connection.
imager memes. To be honest, most of it is all in the joke, right? If you got a good joke, then the rest of it writes itself. There's 4 or 5 memes that are almost universal. That if you've got a good funny point, you can just throw it in. But to be honest. Nah, man. I'm not. Here's the problem, right? There's people that are designing really great pictures and making great memes, but the jokes aren't that funny. The whole thing is that you got to have something to say. You have to have a funny point to make before any of it works. So it's like, if you don't really understand a lot of the business part of it, then a lot of this is going to be foreign to you. That's why I always liked that we did 2 different shows with the podcast because one, I wanted to be inherently relatable to everybody. I wanted everybody to be able to pick it up and listen to it and pick up a tip or pick up a thing and, go with it. The other one I wanted to be jaded vets talking the shit that nobody else gets to hear when we're just hanging out and seshing. And that's what it generally has become, is kind of an expose into the industry in a way that other people don't necessarily see it, but not necessarily directed at anybody. Just, hey, look, the business is funny, and there's parts of it that you don't see, and those parts of it that you don't see can be really weird and really shitty. And whether that's owners exploiting labor in their grows, whether it's the nasty shit that people do with product. I always tell the story of the first grow that anybody ever handed me. Like the first, go get it. The hat's on Etsy. I got mine off Etsy. The first time I ever had somebody hand me my first commercial grow, I walked in and it looked like somebody had taken a bag of powdered sugar and just thrown it all over the plants. Everything was covered in powdery mildew. If you just brushed up against the plant, it just bloomed powdery mildew everywhere. I always tell people every bit of that weed got sold. Now, I took that grow over and I had to pretty much remediate the fancy weed world word. I had to pretty much get that grow in line but every bit of that weed got sold and smoked. And that wasn't the here's what's fucked up. That wasn't the nastiest grow I ever saw. That was probably only the second or third grossest grow I ever went in. And when I say gross, like I went in a grow one time that had bugs I didn't know fucked with weed.
Yeah.
Like they had bugs that I was literally like, bro, I've seen every weed book and I've never seen that bug. Like they had a whole corner, let me put it to you this way. They had a whole corner where they would put the worst spider mite plants, and the whole corner was just a web. It was just one whole web over like 30 plants. And I'm just like, what do you guys do with those plants? Throw them away? And they're like, nah, those are going out the door, man. And this was this was the funny part. This was a celebrity endorsed grow. So that's the other big thing is for a celebrity to just start a brand, whether it's Snoop Dogg or Willie Nelson or, you know, whoever it is. They'll partner with some bottom tier grow just to get product to put into pre-rolls so they can put their name on the label, right? And for a long time, that was really big, but I don't know that it paid off all that well for anybody. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. But it was always bottom tier product. They would always partner with like one of the janky grows or one of the bigger grows that just had tons of space and didn't care about quality, right? And so the one that I worked in, it was all bugs and I didn't see. It was one of these celebrity brands. And I walked in the first day. I walked out. I didn't even make it through a shift. Like I went to go check this place out. Was going to help them work, help them get some things settled and figured out. I turned around after about an hour. I went and got back in my car. I took my clothes off and threw them out the car, and I drove home in my underwear because I was not going back even in my anything. I was not going anywhere in my regular life with these weird. They have bugs on everything, and I'm not normally whingy about bugs until they're weed bugs. Weed bugs are like herpes. Like you get mites, man. It's a tough one to fight. It's a tough road to hoe. Like it's tough, man. And it's like one of those things that the best way to not get it is to not bring it home, to not be around it, and to not bring vectors into your grow. And that's the easiest way to not end up with mites. Lesson number 202. And so I left this grow. It was, man, I don't want to say. A part of me wants to say because it was one of the jankier ones of these celebrity endorsed brands, but I don't want anybody to sue me, so I'm gonna be honest. But it was funny because after I checked out the grow, I asked them. I said, where does this product go? Is this all going to a dispensary? And they're like, no, it's such and such branded product. And I was just like, that's why, bro. That's why. Because once people see that celebrity, once they see that, they buy it. They're like, I'm sold. I'm buying it already because it's XYZ celebrity's brand. And they assume that they do their due diligence and make sure it's dank product and make sure it's good. And then every bit of that weed with the bugs got sold. Every bit of it. It was probably weed biomass dust in some pre-roll factory. But every bit of it got sold. Every bit of it.
Man. Yeah, that's nasty.
So people ask why I got problems with pre-rolls and why I got like PTSD about pre-rolls because I've seen how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't take smoking too many pre-rolls to know, especially if you smoked good weed before. They're pretty, at least all the ones I've had experience with, they're pretty fucking, I've never had a good pre-roll. Whenever I pre-roll, it didn't give me a headache. It's just fucking nastiness.
We once did a price analysis, a profit analysis, because my wife ran dispensaries for a long time, and so we saw a lot of price per unit sale and had a good idea of every product the dispensary sold. As far as the markup and profit ratio, it is the absolute greatest with pre-rolls. Edibles is second, but edibles also usually comes with a food cost that you don't have with pre-rolls. So with pre-rolls, you have your lowest buy-in, largely because most places use lower grade, B grade product, right? So it doesn't cost as much. You're able to mark it up the highest. Now, to the customer, it just looks like a $5 pre-roll. When you look at how many of those pre-rolls go into a pound, instead of a $1,000 wholesale pound of Dusty Shake, you just made $4,000 off of that Dusty Shake by selling it as pre-rolls. You
Yeah.
quadruple your money. And I say $1,000, that's being generous now. In most legal states, because there's so much being produced, you can get shake and you can get B grade leaf. A lot of leaf goes into pre-rolls. Like when I say leaf, like
Finally.
sugar leaf, like short leaf, like trim product, which normally should go to hash. Some places will sell it as bagged shake, and that's what goes into a lot of these pre-rolls. It's like the number of places that are just taking whole A grade nug, top dank nug, and putting it into pre-roll is zero. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody out there, somebody's going to tell me I'm talking shit, but I've never seen it, and I've been in tons of dispensaries. I've been in tons of like the back part of dispensaries. I've seen the sausage made, and I've never seen a place that's using top quality nug. I know places claim to, not places that I've seen the inside of. Not saying it doesn't happen, but I say it's very rare if it happens because that's the markup. You take that $1,000, $400, $800 pound of shake and turn it into 400 pre rolls or whatever it is, and you make $4,000 off of it. For
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
pound of garbage weed that somebody just sold you for a couple $100. Once you see the inside of the system of what's in metric, like all the product that's available and how much it costs, dude, there's pounds for less than $100 sometimes because it's these massive outdoor grows and they don't give a fuck how it's produced. It's just boof. It's just weed. And people will turn around and buy it and throw it in a jar and call it gelato. Yeah, we got some gelato. And it's like, that's the other reason people think so many of these strains are just garbage is because they're not
Oh,
really sampling the
yeah.
actual strain. You're just getting some booth duty that somebody threw in a Mylar or into a bottle popper or into some packaging, and now you think that's gelato or you think that's whatever, whatever the big name in your area is that they know they can reel you in with. And that's not what it is. That's not, when you see so many, put it to you this way, when you see so many of these strains in plant form, you realize whatever you saw is junk, because once you see a lot of these top strains in person firsthand, you often understand why they're popular. When you really see the actual plant, whether it's gelato or blue dream or whatever, whatever the hype strain is, whatever the big popular strain is, once you've run it in plant form, you have a better understanding of what it's about. You understand that blue dream throws buds that look like, a small
Yeah.
child, and you understand why people like it. Now, it might not be your thing. It might not be your thing, but when you see it at its best, you at least get to understand, like, why people love certain strains.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, and that's been my experience too. Anytime I got like a famous cut, I can't think of one where I wasn't like, this is pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
Um,
I might have
you
said it
know,
ain't for me, and there's been a few that I've picked on for not being as terpy as I might like. But the other thing is, you have to understand a lot of these strains' real moment was a decade ago or 20
yeah,
years ago. OG Kush's moment was 20 years ago. The fact that OG Kush is still around today as a staple strain is kind of funny, because
yeah,
its real moment was 20 years ago. But it's just a testament to how much people like that gassy profile.
for
Like,
sure.
it's a bitch of a plant to grow. At this point, it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy for 40 years, 30 years. So it's like, it's not the easiest plant to grow, doesn't yield super well. I mean, that's why OG Kush crosses are almost better than all of the Triangle Kush, SFV Kush by themselves. Happy 420, guys. Sorry if we just got to rambling. I got to talking shit after 420 at Dab, and I just we just went off. So I hope everybody that stopped in enjoyed it. We did a whole hour for fun. But yeah, man, it's one of those things that, like, I don't know why I take it so personally. I've shit on strains that I didn't think were all that great, but it was always because I either didn't like the high or I didn't like the profile. It was almost never because I didn't like that it's popular, which is kind of weird to me. Like, if a strain is legitimately popular, why? Is it because that particular flavor you just can't live without, or is it just good marketing?
For sure. Now, anyway, for sure, the marketing. Back in the day, a lot of the strains were famous because they grew really easily. You could grow them in a tent or an attic and still get a good yield, and there's still decent weed, like the Blue Dream. But now I think you're right. More marketing.
That's a good point. That's changed a lot too, man. The last 15 years, even the term terpene. When I first moved to Denver in 2014, that was a very new word amongst weed people. It hadn't blown out to the point where everybody knew what terps was.
Yeah.
So the notion that flavors are that important is a new concept. It's some new shit that is not 30, 40, 50 years old. You know, people have not been searching for super unique flavors for all that time. It was almost always, how does it grow? Can I grow it indoors? Can I grow it under lights? Can it yield? Those were the most important things for 30 years in cannabis genetics.
Yeah.
You know?
Is it going to be moldy if it's really hot and humid?
Right. Will it adapt to my environment? And there's some really glaring examples. When you look back at some of the staple strains, and anybody that's watched any of my pods know the one or two that I'm talking about, but they're breeders that wrote books on cannabis breeding that put some of the most hermaphroditic genes into the gene pool. We don't talk about it. We don't discuss it. The strain is blueberry. We all have known a blueberry herm strain. It's a great strain. But the breeder that wrote the book on breeding, his strain herms ridiculously, and it's cool. It's all good. Everybody's been growing it for 40 years. There's other great examples of highly inbred lines where people stabilized and did all this work and did all this stuff, and they're notorious for herming. It's because breeding against hermaphroditism is a fairly new concept. That's not something that's been happening since the beginning of time when they were farming it in fields just for seed production. Like that wasn't a big deal. Most strains that'll herm indoors won't herm outdoors. That it's a specific light stress that they either don't like the spectrum of your light, they don't like the intensity of your light, something. You know? Anyway, that's pretty much it for us, dog. Thank you so much, Earl. I very much appreciate it. I hope everybody had a great 420. Hope everybody stays baked this year. Go check out the website. We still got mystery bags, huge discount on seeds. Still got plenty of time. Matt, thanks, Earl. We're going to do another one at 10 o'clock. I'm going to do it with my buddy Drew. We'll probably talk shit about fish and, talk shit about weed. So thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one. Peace. Happy 420.